Hello, this kind of video, the video I'm showing this is over here. It's on the screen right here. The camera's right here, so that's why I'm gonna be kind of being dividing my attention between these two areas. But for those of you who don't know, DSP had this video series called Project 7. Project 7 was something that he really, was a very individual series that he did on his YouTube and so on. Um, and he really liked doing Project 7, I guess, for a while. Then he had to cancel it because of reasons, and then he moved to Washington, so he definitely had to cancel it. But then he said, I'll do Project 7 for free. He said he was going to do it, but he kept pushing it back, and then it became a Patreon goal. Sorry, it became a Patreon goal level. So it was about, I would like to say $1,200 around that area. It was something ridiculous like that. And he made the money. He made the money. He reached the goal. And throughout the month of August, he kept teasing about Project 7. He kept saying, "I'll work on it," and all this stuff. So he's been really building it up, talking it up, and all that. So let's hear what Phil has to say about Project 7. Remember, people's hard-earned money went into this video. I mean, sure, it might be impromptu, but people paid money for Project 7, and this is what they got.
Hello everyone, Darkside Phil.
I'm sorry, it sounds like I'm kind of like painting a tone. I did see this video before. I originally was gonna do a video of just me originally kind of reacting to it, but I didn't like the video how it turned out because I kind of I don't know, I sounded like a dick by the end, so I didn't want to keep that. So I'm deciding to re-record it. Now that I know what he says, I can kind of maybe say something that's not, I don't know, that we'll see. I mean, I wasn't really satisfied with how the original kind of came out, so I'm glad that I'm doing it again. Um, but we'll see. Let's continue. I'm sorry to ramble.
Here, and today is Friday, August 14th, 2015. Just so you know, doing this video completely impromptu. Was not planning originally to be making this video today, but due to circumstances, due to things.
Look how he darts his eyes.
I kind of wanted to clarify the situation, as well as give you a big kind of, not really a spoiler, but more of a reveal, all right, regarding Project 7, regarding this project, right, that started all the way back in 2010, rebooted in 2012, here we are in 2015, and I'll be honest, I know full well that some of you who are watching this video right now probably have no idea what Project 7 is.
This is camera, and that to me is funny.
All right, and I understand that because this is something that started way back when, before I ever even was partnered with Machinima or anything like that, and it's kind of gone through the ringer. It had an original idea of what it was going to be, and then it got rebooted in 2012, and it was something that was a limited run series that ended up getting canceled, and then I had the idea to revive it at one point. And what I want to talk about in this video is a few things. I want to, first of all, let everyone know that I want to kind of talk about Project 7 in regards to what the idea is, what eventually hopefully it will be, okay? And I am going to reveal, right now, I'm going to talk and reveal to you the original idea, the plot line, even some behind-the-scenes stuff you never knew about in regards to this project from stuff that I filmed back in 2010, yeah. And basically, people who have had questions about Project 7 for quite some time, who back in 2010, man, I wonder what the game is, and I wonder what Phil is going to do with this series. It's all going to come out right now. I'm going to tell you everything, all right?
Okay.
And I'm going to do that for multiple reasons. And then I'm going to have an update on the project at the end of the video, okay? So first of all, let's talk about projects.
The video is 41 minutes long. So in order for me to understand where where Project 7 lies and what its update is, I have to wait all the way to the end. That's kind of shitty, because I would have put the update before, in the beginning, or at least in the middle, but I would have at least kind of talked about it in the beginning, because that's more important. Well, I mean, this stuff is fine, I guess, but really the update stuff is really what people wanted to know about more than the history. I mean, it's nice, I guess, but it's the update's the important thing. But I kind of was thinking about this. His tone is funny to me. I mean, I don't know his tone, but that's kind of how he talks. It's like, he just sounds like he wants to like kind of talk you down or something. Like he's like, I don't know. We'll see a little bit more into this video is what I mean. But it kind of dawned on me even here. It's I don't know.
This is an idea that I had back in 2010, and at that point, as you know, I wasn't doing this full time on YouTube or anything. It wasn't a job or anything like that. It was just a hobby. And every day when I got home from work, I would spend a couple hours filming whatever the hot new game was, or if there wasn't a hot new game, I would maybe do a game review or a vlog or something like that. And I remember, in particular, this time of the year, there was nothing going on. There really wasn't. There weren't many games out that I was interested in playing. There was nothing really to do for a couple days. And because of that, I said, I want to do something completely different. I want to make a suspenseful, like, mystery vlog series that has scripted stuff. And just for the hell of it, I want to see how it would catch on with my viewing audience. Because primarily up to then, everything I had been doing was gameplay, with a few vlogs and a few reviews mixed in here and there. And I did a 3-mini video. The videos were very short. They were like, one was like 6 minutes long. One was named Channel Update, but ended up having a viral ending that kind of teased this upcoming project, okay? And it was 3 very short videos where it was just me and my old condo in Connecticut, kind of dicking around. I pretended that there was this character named Deathface, this mysterious character who no one knew who he was, and he had captured me, and he was going to lock me in my condo, okay, and force me to play a game that I hated, a game from the past that apparently I had hated, and that was the premise of the series. Now, I basically extended it like really long. I was pretending like I couldn't open my door, and what was the game, and then there was jokes that I wouldn't show what the game was, and there was this suspenseful buildup of what is the game that Phil's going to play, and I did these 3 little mini episodes, and then people liked them, by the way. People were like, wow, this is cool, we'd like to see this actually continue, we wish you would do an ongoing series of it. But then more games came out, and back then, as I said, I was doing this as a hobby, not as a job. It was only a couple hours a day that I had free time to work on it, and at the time I said I would rather play these games than work on this project, and so I always had that idea in my mind that maybe one day I'll go back to it, maybe one day I'll actually work on it and do it, but it was always something on the back burner. It wasn't anything that I had planned on spending time on or anything.
Honestly, how many times he looks to his left? Yeah, his left when he looks like this. He did that for so long. Like, he didn't stream this, so it's not like he had stream chat or anything. He recorded this. So he's looking at OBS, basically. I mean, I've been looking at it too, but that's because I'm wondering if this is picking up the audio from Phil talking. But, there are times where he's just like, blah, 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 blah. It's just like that. That's really distracting for the viewer to see him kind of look this way constantly. I mean, it's not like a subtle eye movement like I've been doing, but it's this. Talk, this. And even when I look at I'm looking at OBS right now, but when I look at it, I look at it, very quickly. I don't look. He looks at it for so long, like ridiculously, like noticeably long. Like you can kind of notice me do it, but it's not as bad as DSP.
And then, I signed with Machinima. My YouTube presence blew up in the years of 2011.
These hand gestures are ridiculous.
Come 2012. I
2012.
take that back. Come late 2011.
2011.
I was actually approached by Howard, my friend, who I knew from Street Fighter primarily, and he had done a few, cooperative gameplays and things with me before. But he had 2 friends who were heavily into filming and video editing and filmmaking, and they were looking for a project to work on that they could put a lot of time and effort into to get their name out there and show that they had skills to hopefully get their reputation kind of bumped. And either, number 1, get them recognition with filmmaking and maybe they'll get other jobs, or number 2, to make their YouTube channel got to get a boost and be popular. Because they already had a YouTube channel, but that channel was a lot of filmmaking stuff. I believe they had, like, real-life Pac-Man, and it was, like, a Street Fighter video, real-life Third Strike video, stuff like that.
Real-life Third Strike, that's
a
weird game to pick. Out of all the Street Fighters,
cool, the videos actually had several hundred.
I like Third Strike. I just think that's weird that they picked that.
But they figured that pairing with someone like me would give them the boost they need, and I'd be able to do a cool and creative series that was very different from anything else that I had done before. And so, got my friends together, and at that time in late 2011 and through the first half of 2012, we did what was called Project 7, which was really just taking that original idea from 2010 that I was locked in my condo, being forced to play a game that I didn't like, and completely blowing it and expanding it, like blowing it up big time, exponentially. It wasn't anything that I had originally planned. The original plan was that I was going to kind of play a game, and the game was going to be a game that I hated, or a game that I, disliked for whatever reason. And it was going to be footage of the game, me playing the game, but also there was going to be cuts back and forth between the game and myself, and Deathface doing jokes and stuff about the game, and comedy skits, and maybe even superimposing. Eventually, I was hoping maybe I could get things like a green
So I'm just upping the volume on the
screen
monitor.
and put it into this project.
Sorry.
This Project 7 from 2012 was completely different. I mean, super visual effects and sound effects and music and all kinds of editing and things that I could never do. I didn't have any of that kind of skill whatsoever. And, Respect the Pact was the name of the two guys who were working on, this project with me, and that was the name of the YouTube channel.
Take sip.
Did an outstanding job filming, editing, everything. Did a great job with this project, okay? But after 4 episodes, and it was a lot of work, let me tell you, we're talking, entire days of filming, plus probably dozens of hours, if not more, of video editing behind a computer for those guys, which I wasn't even...
I'm sorry, I'm just getting really bored. We're only 6 minutes into this video, and I really don't care about what he has to say. Like, usually, I do like behind-the-scenes kind of stuff, commentaries, but this is kind of dull. Like, he's not even talking about anything, like, interesting about this series. He's just saying, like, I mean, it's kind of just, like, saying, like, how it started, I guess, that's interesting, or, how it went about, but it's not really interesting, and it's boring. Like, it's kind of beating around the bush. I mean, he could just kind of... I feel like he could definitely just kind of shorten this video. I don't think it had to be 41 minutes.
Involved in 4 episodes, the series had caught on, and got some pretty decent viewership, hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube. In fact, I think at one point I could say over 1 million views the series had gotten on YouTube. Respect the Pact kind of had a change of heart because their YouTube channel was getting a little bit of attention because of Project 7, but not a lot. More people wanted to see Project 7 than anything they were putting on their channel at the time.
Of course.
So really, it was kind of,
Of course, they care about him.
Unfair to them. They were putting in a ton of work, but the work that people wanted to see was what they were doing for me, not necessarily other stuff they were doing for their channel. And also at the...
But weren't they doing Project 7, for their channel as well? Like, it sounded as if it was like a team effort that was being put into it. Like, they were editing it, they were doing the work with Phil on this. It almost sounds like as if Phil's taken the credit for this. I mean, sure, he might have created the idea, but he also, he helped. These people are helping him out. I mean, it's like when you look at Mega 64, for example. I name dropped there, sure, but Mega 64 is a team of like 3 to 4 people if you include Garrett. Garrett does the special effects, so I guess I would count him. So they have 4 people. Sure, like Rocco kind of came up with the idea of Mega 64, the version DVDs. Look at the version stories. He even says, like, I kind of came up with this idea, and then Derek and Sean kind of attached, helped them out. So, you don't see Rocco saying, I did this, I did that. These people are all great, but it's all me. No, it's a collaborative effort. So, yeah, it's kind of weird how he said that. Like, it sounds like he just took all the effort, all the work, all the credit, I guess, but...
Time from what I'm understanding, there were some life-changing circumstances with those guys where they decided they couldn't put in a lot of time into doing that kind of stuff anymore. And literally, they stopped. If you actually went and looked at their channel afterwards, they stopped doing it for a while. Very scarcely would they even do stuff. They started doing stop-motion animation with Legos and stuff, and really stopped doing the high production value videos because of life circumstances. It happens. They were doing it on a whim. It didn't explode or whatever, and because of that, they had to refocus their efforts. But that left me with a series that was, had steam, and unfortunately kind of died out of nowhere, just died. And I always said if I found people who were aspiring...
But you didn't really explain how it died. I might have missed something, but he kind of says oh, well, these people did their own YouTube thing, and then things changed, and then it died. Why did it die? What was it because it changed? Of that change in that what he said before about these people who had some kind of life change or something? I mean, I don't know. It sounds weird.
Filmmakers or whatever, who were interested in possibly continuing Project 7, that I would continue doing it. But it never happened. I never really found anyone who was interested in doing it. Obviously, if I had
That's
tons
the
of money, I could
goatee.
go out and hire a professional crew and had professional video editors and people work on it, but I don't make a ton of money. So I never had that kind of, funding to produce the rest of Project 7 and have it keep going. I'll be honest with you guys. Even though those videos got hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube,
Man,
I spent way more money on the props and everything else for that show than it ever made. I mean, even with the million views that the series made, I was putting in so much money into the props and having filming locations and all of that. It was
filming
very
locations. Filming locations. I've seen like maybe like an episode of Project 7. I kind of decided to look at it because I was just like bored, and they filmed it in his apartment. I mean, there might have been other locations, but I think it was I think locations were like his friend's house and all this kind of stuff. I don't think they went to like other places. And even when you look at Mega 64, when they did location stuff, they didn't really pay for stuff for the location. I mean, the only time they had to pay for a location was when they did a in one of their episodes in their Virgin DVDs. They had to go use a theater, so they had to say paid for that. I mean, it's yeah, you should pay for locations, you should get contracts and all that, but you don't really need it if it's a small team thing. It really depends on how you work with it. You know, like it's I don't know. There's ways around it, but DSP guys. But I mean, even if you do accept that he paid for locations, what locations did he pay for? I don't know. I'm not gonna criticize him that much on it, but I don't really think he paid any money for locations.
expensive to buy
Paid for
everything and have
props, but
everything working for it as well. So in that regard, it really wasn't like a huge moneymaker. It was just something different. I was hoping I could diversify my content. And, I actually remember back that people were Phil, you shouldn't do that. Phil, just stick to games. Phil, don't diversify. You're doing good with your games. Just stick to that. And I was like, but no, I want to kind of diversify my stuff. But it fell through. And that's life. Things happen, right?
he doesn't like
But I
blame
always thought in my
his
head, man,
fans
one
there.
day I would like to revive Project 7. I really would like to do it. Now, of course, time passes, and as you know, I adopted direct capture. I started live streaming. I moved across the country, yada, yada, yada. Here we are in 2015, and earlier this year, I was like, man, now I'm settled into my new home, and I have my own office, and I have more rooms, more film.
Sorry, the only reason I'm looking there is because I'm really bored. If I'm gonna talk to you, I'd look at the camera like Phil, who is talking and doing all this. So don't. I'm sorry if that distracts you. I'll try to not do it as much.
Locations to do this kind of stuff. And what I would like to possibly do this year is, again, try to diversify my content. Try to do series such as a series about movies, where I talk about movies and stuff like that. I wanted to do a Google or YouTube news series starring Deathface was going to be in it. He was going to kind of pretend to be like a Google employee, and he was going to joke about stuff at Google.
Because he hates
I was
Google.
talking about doing gaming news and stuff like that. And yes, I wanted to.
He kind of does that with Hate Live. Hate Live is a podcast he does. He kind of does that with Hate Live. He kind of tells news stories. He could have utilized Hate Live in that way.
Reinvigorate Project 7 from what it originally was. So the plan for Project 7 is to actually play the game that originally I was going to do back in 2010, have that footage, and implement that into the series, use my green screen that I have downstairs now to do green screen shots over the footage.
10
like
minutes.
I'm in the game at times,
10 minutes.
joking with Deathface and stuff like that, okay? And so, originally, I had planned that during the summer, the months of July and August in particular, I was going to be focused on working on Project 7 because traditionally, summer is slow. Traditionally, summer's really freaking slow. But as we're going to talk about in a moment, things didn't work out as planned. But we're going to get to that. What I want to do right now is I want to tell you my original idea for Project 7. I want to tell you what the game is, and I actually want to tell you a little bit about my experience because I actually was filming to do Project 7 in 2010, if you can believe it.
Oh boy, I can't wait.
3 videos. I actually filmed way more than that. I filmed skits, and I filmed gameplay footage and all kinds of stuff. So here's what happened, ladies and gentlemen. Big spoiler alert, although people have been asking for this for years, so I'm going to tell you right up front. The skinny on Project 7, all right? So for years, people have been saying, what is the game? What is the game in Project 7? That Phil's talking about. What is the game that Phil hates, that Phil wants, that Phil doesn't want to play, and Deathface is making him play? What could it be?
Take a sip.
Well, the truth be told, game that I was going to play in Project.
Notice he's talking about the game that he's going to talk about. The game that he's going to talk about. Let's try to guess the game as he's building up.
Project 7 was not a game that I hated. That's actually the truth. Okay, and
what's he looking at?
The truth of the matter.
Tweets.
The game that Jet Space was forcing me to play in Project 7 was a game that I didn't hate, but I disliked because I felt the game, number one, was incredibly overhyped on its release. Number two,
this gotta be good. What is it?
Incredibly held in such high regard, and its ass gets kissed constantly.
What is it?
I honestly don't think that this game deserves
what is it?
recognition that it gets. I think that this game
is it Zelda?
Quite honestly, is very much overestimated in how good it actually is because of my unique
overestimated
situation. All right, you have to understand that I grew up in the 1980s and 19.
What's the game? Say the game, Phil. I mean, that's he's building up so much. It's just alright, the game is this, okay? It's this. It's overhyped. It's overrated. Game, you put it in the console and you play it. It has a controller and the controls and why? What's the point of this build-up? Just say the game.
90s. Those were the golden years of gaming for me. And I was a person who played
'80s
games
and '90s. Okay, Phil.
The Genesis, and I was there for some of the core evolution of some of the major franchises.
I don't care about.
At the time. And
I don't care. What your golden age of games are. That's like me saying it's like me trying to talk about a game I don't like and saying well, before I say the game that I don't like, I grew up in the 90s. I had an N64, and I played Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racer, and that was a really good game. And then I played Mario Kart 64, and that was a really great game. So you gotta understand, I really like the classics, and I played on the N64, and it was a really good console. And then, when you look at the GameCube, and then it says he's giving us this needless information. This is fluff. Just see the game.
I actually played games in this series before this game was released that I felt.
I played games in this series that I think is overrated, but the series is great, but there's one game in particular. Can you guess what game that is in particular that's overrated and overhyped? Can you guess?
Were much better than this game when this game was released. I think that it was the perfect storm of things going on that allowed this game to get the hype and recognition.
The perfect storm.
People to this day still, in their heads, hold it up as the best game of this genre ever, when in my opinion, I don't think it's anywhere near close. So here we go. After 5 years of waiting,
okay,
ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to reveal the game that I was going to play in Project 7. Ladies and gentlemen, the game that we are talking about is a game that many of you guessed over the years, some of you did not. The game is, yes, you've probably figured it out by now, Final Fantasy 7. Okay. Oh, now, it's Project 7, Final.
I'm salty right now, Phil. I'm so salty. No, just kidding. Let's hear why he thinks Final Fantasy 7 is a piece of shit or overrated garbage or however he wants to say it.
Fantasy 7, that was so easy to figure out. But over the years, I kind of tried to do things to, get people to not think that that's what it was. And quite honestly, over the years, I had ideas that it would be something different. I kind of thought maybe I'll change it. But Final Fantasy 7. Don't take this the wrong way. You know what? I already can tell you, this video is going to have tons of thumbs down. Everyone, Phil's talking bad about Final Fantasy 7 and Project 7 and all the thumbs down.
614 dislikes.
Goddamn video. I don't care. All right.
Well, I'm sure that's not why I got thumbs down. Spoiler alert. I don't think this is why the video got thumbed down. Spoiler alert.
Is one of the most over-regarded, overpraised, kiss-ass games of all time and doesn't deserve it.
Final Fantasy Number one.
The game released on PlayStation 1. It was a huge acquisition for PlayStation because up to that point, the Final Fantasy series had only been on.
Wait. He's saying one of the reasons that it's overhyped and overrated, not as good as the other Final Fantasies, because it was on the PlayStation? Is he fucking 12? Dude. I'm gonna say this. I understand why people kind of have this divide with Final Fantasy VII. There's a lot of people who say that's great, and some people that disagree with that, and that's fine. I'm not even gonna say that Phil is ridiculous. Is ridiculous for not liking the game, but this reason is ridiculous. That's the ridiculous part. Not that he doesn't like the game. It's just the reasoning of it. I mean, that's like me saying, well, Metal Gear Solid was great, but you know what? Metal Gear Solid 5 is overrated because it's now a multi-platform game. It was on Sony for years, and then it just went on the Xbox. It's overrated. Same with Metal Gear Solid 1. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 1 was a PS1 game, and then they ported it to the game. They remade it on the GameCube. That overrated game, overhyped. Like really, that doesn't make any sense. That's not a reason. That's like what baby. That's really when you go to a message board or you go to a forum and someone wants to troll or flame a message board, they will say this kind of stuff just to trigger a reaction. But the thing is that he's not trolling. He's not. I know for a fact he's not trolling because he said other stuff similar to this ridiculousness and he stands by it.
Nintendo. So to go from Nintendo and kind of jump shit to Sony was a huge deal. Number 2, it was one of the first major RPGs.
That's not a reason. That's still not a reason. It's not a reason. I'm sorry. That point just oh no.
Yeah, 3D graphics. Yes, most RPGs.
3D graphics.
3D animated sprites. This is the first game to jump into full 3D. Okay, and so people, it's so hyped because it's 3D.
3D graphics is why. So then Mario 64, Legend of Zelda, Metal Gear Solid, all those games that used to be 2D and then went to the 3D realm are all overhyped, and everyone only cared about those games because they were in 3D. Wow. I can tell you, I liked Mario 64 not because it was in 3D, it was because it was a good game. I like the gameplay, I like the level design, but that's a whole other thing. But really, because it was 3, get out of here.
Because the series already had such a huge installed fan base, regardless of the fact that the game might not have been, in my opinion, as good as previous games in the Final Fantasy series, people felt this was the future. This is the jump from Final Fantasy to the modern era. This is the game. This is what people say. Final Fantasy VII is the game that brought Western JRPGs to America and made them popular.
It brought Western JRPGs to America. Okay. Even then, I'm not a huge Final Fantasy person. I played a little bit of Final Fantasy X, kind of got bored at the beginning of it. Then I played Final Fantasy 13, got bored, dropped it. And I played Crystal Chronicles, but I never really cared for Final Fantasy. But when Final Fantasy VII came out, I kind of knew about that series because everyone kept talking about it. So yeah, it is a big deal, and it did help make it popular because I didn't know about these type of games. So Final Fantasy VII to me at least made people talk about it more. I mean, people talked about Final Fantasy VII, and I think most of it is earned in that game from what I've seen and heard. I mean, I think it's well deserved, but yeah, just because you don't like it or you think it's overrated doesn't mean that it didn't do anything about that. I mean, it did make people care about JRPGs some more. I mean, without Final Fantasy VII, I don't think anyone would give a shit, give as much of a shit as to Final Fantasy VIII. I mean, like, Final Fantasy VII was big regardless, same with the previous Final Fantasy games. I mean, that's how they continued. But Final Fantasy VII made it more, like, broaden the audience. And people say that it's the future, that it's evolution, because they've never seen a Final Fantasy game like this. Final Fantasy 1 through 6, from what I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong here, was a 2D, top-down kind of perspective that kind of stayed, there was new gameplay elements of it in each one, but there was always, it was still the same like kind of design or whatever because it was on those consoles. The PlayStation 1 allowed them to be rendered in like 3D. That is definitely a step. That is definitely an evolution because it's going from 2D to 3D. It's going to a different dimension. So yeah, it is an evolution.
I completely fucking disagree. I think that JRPGs were already popular in America. Here's what I think: Final Fantasy VII.
But he doesn't. That's the other thing. He didn't even list any of the other JRPGs that are famous in the U.S. before Final Fantasy VII or whatever. He doesn't list them. For all I know, he could be talking out of his ass. I mean, is he gonna say Chrono Trigger? I don't know even if Chrono Trigger is an RPG. So I'm sorry if I offended you Chrono Trigger fans here, but he doesn't list. I mean, if I am gonna make a statement like this that he's saying, I would at least know what I'm talking about before I say it. I wouldn't say like, well, Metal Gear Solid is the best stealth game on the planet, and then later on someone could easily say, no, it's actually this game because look at this. I don't know. What does he consider to be the most popular Final Fantasy game? Not Final Fantasy game. RPG. What is his? What's the one that he would pick? I don't know. He doesn't list.
Was the first game to receive insane media hype because of
media hype.
Magazines and everything was.
He really hates magazines and all forms of media, and I will say I disagree with him on this part because I do feel that game magazines and reviews and all this kind of stuff had a lot of integrity at that time. Like very rarely you would see a magazine get paid out for a review. That when you see game reviews now, you can kind of guess the review is going to be. You kind of guess what Metal Gear Solid 5 is going to get review wise. But back in the 90s and early 2000s and so, way before people paid for reviews were magazines were very credible. I mean, I got all my news from there because that was the only thing in town. But now it's like people are paying for reviews, and there's definitely a skew. So you kind of have to look for a unbiased source now. But gaming, but obviously the one in the 90s were just as bad as today's media. Okay, Phil. That's my opinion, at least.
The fuck out of Final Fantasy VII. We'll sell a ridiculous amount of magazines. We'll sell, ridiculous, because it's not like it is today where it's all about the internet and everything was free. Back then you had to go buy the magazine to get the news on the new game. And I remember 7/7/97. Everything was 7/7/7/7/7.
1997 was the biggest Final Fantasy VII fan. Just saying, even the year 1997 hyped Final Fantasy VII. God damn it, 1997, get your shit together.
And people who didn't even play video games ran out and bought PlayStations and bought Final Fantasy VII because it got so fucking overhyped.
Not because they got overhyped, because they were interested in it. I got a PlayStation 3 because I was interested in Metal Gear Solid 4. I wasn't hyped for Metal Gear Solid 4. I mean, sure, I was hyped, but I bought a PlayStation 4 just because I was interested in Metal Gear Solid 4. I wanted a Nintendo 64 because I thought Super Smash Bros. Was a really good game, and I wanted to play that. Same with Mario 64. I didn't get this because, oh man, Nintendo Power said Mario 64 is the best game ever. I need to buy a Nintendo 64. I don't know.
So, that was the game that I was going to play, and I was going to do gameplay of it. Like,
pause.
I would say off stream. Gee, I didn't stream back then. But I was going to do a playthrough on camera with my old camera like I used to. But it wasn't going to upload the footage raw. I was going to use that footage in the series, okay? Final Fantasy VII has a lot that can be made fun of, all right? Just off the top of my head, a few silly things about the game that I know could be hilarious in a series. Number one, why do the characters in the game in combat look normal? In combat in Final Fantasy VII, they walk up, they've got normal proportioned bodies, they look really cool, they kind of look like anime characters. Then they go to anything outside of combat, and they're like little squished chibi characters with really disproportioned heads and limbs. And it makes no fucking sense. Why did they do that? If you could obviously make the characters normal size in the combat, why couldn't you do that in the normal game?
Because the combat had a different camera angle than the non-combat angles. Again, I haven't played Final Fantasy VII, so I don't know the combat angles, but I assume the combat angles are not a top-down kind of angle, because isn't the in Final Fantasy VII you go to like the hub world and just in between fights or whatever, isn't it a bird's eye view? Like, isn't it top down or something close to top down? And then when you do a combat, it's not top down. And also when you're doing a non-combat scene, you have to compress a lot of data. So yeah, for what they did for the technology on a PlayStation 1, that was actually a good move on their part to make it chibi characters because it helped the story move along and it was able to fit a lot of like story and content into a game. So it made sense to do that. You know, when you look at Metal Gear Solid 1 on the PS1, you know, the cutscenes look the same because the game intentionally rendered the cutscenes at when it looks like in the game. So they could have made the cutscenes look really good, I guess, or decently good in Metal Gear Solid 1, but that doesn't mean that that's possible. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just this is a ridiculous criticism. I feel like
It doesn't make any sense.
it
It
does
doesn't
make
make any
sense.
logical sense. I think it's honestly because they was going to take too much storage space. Because the game itself, I believe, was 3 or 4 discs at launch, and at that time, that was one of the 4 discs at launch. People, it was high production cost, and so they said, oh, we want to, no way we can have another disc or two to have the characters look higher resolution or better outside of combat. But it was so silly.
It's like when you make a game on the PlayStation 1, it's really not storage that's limitation. I mean that's a limitation, but you also have to look at the hardware. A PS1 cannot render a lot of polygons. You kind of have to work with what they give you. So it's not just the memory on the disc that makes the character. It's also what the console could kind of put out because it's the hardware that matters. Graphics aren't software.
I think the characters look terrible in the game. The music, I hate to say this because I know a lot of people love the soundtrack of Final Fantasy VII. I actually do. I love the overworld theme,
What?
and I love the boss battles theme of Final Fantasy VII. I
Oh
also
wait, I know
love
what
the
he's.
song at the end, the Sephiroth song, One Winged Angel. I love that song. Oh, and the Genova theme I like. So there's like 4 songs in the game I
I
really
like
like.
the Final Fantasy VII
But compared to the
soundtrack,
soundtracks of Final
but
Fantasy 4 and 6, the other 2 games that had been localized for American audiences as Final Fantasy 2 and 3, I like the soundtracks of those games way better than I like the soundtrack of Final Fantasy VII. In fact, if you listen to the music of Final Fantasy 4 or 6, and then you listen to the soundtrack of Final Fantasy 7, this game was on a CD. Why the hell does the audio, the game music sound so terrible? Because it does. It sounds like MIDI music, like. It sounds.
I'm sorry that still gets me. And then the first time I recorded this, I when they got to that part, I lost it. I just had to stop, and it did it to me again. Oh wow, Phil, you're still making me laugh over that. Uh, I don't know the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack, so I'm not gonna critique the soundtrack or defend it or anything. I never heard it, but I wouldn't say like, well, it's on CD, so it has to be good. I mean, or it has to be this particular format. Just because it's MIDI music, I wouldn't mind it. I mean, I like the Wind Waker soundtrack. That was definitely MIDI music. Same with Metal Gear Solid 1. There's some good tracks in that, and that was MIDI.
CD. You couldn't hire a fucking real musician to fucking play the music. And the funny thing is, it was Nobuo Uematsu who orchestrated all this music, but the music sounds like shit a lot in the game. But then he went and he did symphonies, and he has a band who plays it, and the music sounds fucking badass. Why couldn't they make it? It's a CD fucking game. Record real quality music and put it on the CD. Don't fucking. And that was the thing, because again, space constraints, right? But for me, it's like you're bringing this game into the new era, the era of CDs. Go all out. And it seems like they kind of skimped. The music wasn't as high quality as I would like it to be. I didn't like that the graphics
They
were
skimped.
different in combat than
Okay.
outside of combat. It looked like a little chibi.
Just keep that in mind. He said that the people who made Final Fantasy skimped on their product. Skimped on the product. Just keep that in mind. He's criticizing Square Enix for that.
And also, the characters. Some of the characters in Final Fantasy VII are the poorest developed characters I've seen in a role-playing game. Coming off of games like Final Fantasy 4
Wow.
and 6, where every character had this big fleshed out story, with a few exceptions here or there. But when you played a character in those games, you cared about that character. You learned about their backstory. You learned about their personality traits. Some of the characters in Final Fantasy VII is like Kate Sith. It's a fucking robot that's controlled by someone who works for the Shinra Corporation. And that's it. Like, there's almost no backstory for Kate Sith. You can play as the character for most of the game, but there's never really that much backstory. It's never really, it's not fleshed out. There's entire characters in it.
This is the other thing important when you make stories and all that stuff. You don't need a backstory for every single little character. because that's not the main focus. Really, as far as I understand Final Fantasy VII, Cloud Strife was the main character, so of course you're going to talk a lot about his character. Of course, with the main villain, you go a little bit in his backstory. But not every single character needs one. Now, I don't know how big of a role this character is. I mean, but if you played as that character, I guess it's somewhat a big deal. But, yeah, I don't know. You don't really need a backstory for it to be a good story, but, it's...
Cloud sucks.
Cloud
Cloud
sucks.
sucks as a protagonist because he's got amnesia. So he's really a non-character. He's a brood, emo, brood.
What?
And he was
Because he has amnesia, he's a shitty character? That's like me saying, Philia from Skullgirl sucks. Because she has amnesia, and she's a schoolgirl. That's dumb. No. I like Philia, by the way. She's a great character. I needed to play Final Fantasy 7 to kind of defend this character, but I really like to believe that there was more to Cloud Strife than having amnesia. And being what he just said. I'm sure Cloud is more than just that. But whatever.
It's kind of the
I don't know.
kind of stereotypical JRPG character. That's the stereotypical male character brooding, and it's stupid, in my opinion.
Male character brooding, but every single game he plays that he likes as a male character that's brooding. Batman is a brooding character, and he likes Batman. Oh, Batman Arkham Knight's it's a great game. I mean, he might have criticized a little more, but he loves Batman, and Batman's a brooding character.
From the previous Final Fantasy games were way better. I could see.
And I like Batman too, but I recognize that he's a brooding character.
I don't think the game is anywhere near as good as Final Fantasy 4 or 6, just from my perspective. But I'm sure there's tons of people out there who are going to disagree with me because they've got those rose-colored glasses on, right? This was the first
rose-colored glasses? You're gonna use that argument? Okay. If I don't like Metal Gear Solid 1, let's say I don't like Metal Gear Solid 1 on PS1, let's say I don't like it, and someone says I like that game, I'm not gonna tell them, well, that's because you had rose-colored glasses. You can't wake up to the fact that that game sucks. Okay? No, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, yeah, you could say that maybe some of their bias to that due to that, but I'm sure that the people who like Final Fantasy VII have their own reasons of liking that game. I know people who like Final Fantasy VII, and I'm not going to tell them that, well, they like it because of their rose-colored glasses.
Final Fantasy game that hit Western shores and was super hyped by American media, and people loved it. It sold like crazy, and some people, this was their first Final Fantasy. So for them, of course, you're going to say, well, this is the best Final Fantasy, and I completely disagree. Now, I will obviously agree that there were other Final Fantasies that were far worse than 7. I thought that 8 was fucking atrocious.
So I want to make sure.
And I think 10 is actually pretty.
That's why I do that, because I don't want to press space and then scrolls.
I actually never played. I had 12, but I never played significantly into it. I got so caught up with the open world combat at 12 that I played it more for the combat than the story. But I digress. Final Fantasy VII.
I digress.
I was going to play, and you might not know this. So here's some more reveals, right?
More reveals.
In 2010, I actually played it. I played like half of the game. I got all the way. I actually remember I got to the Shinra Corporation. I fucking hate that stage. That's one of the most poorly designed stages.
I just want to say this. Look at the title. What do you see in that title? Project 7. History. The game revealed and its fate. This sounds more like a review of Final Fantasy VII. I get that he wants to reveal the game that he was going to play. Great. You can say it's Final Fantasy VII and kind of go into a brief summary why you didn't like it. This is not brief. I wasn't timing how long he's been talking about Final Fantasy VII, but I'm sure it's been quite a while talking about Final Fantasy VII. I mean, this stuff could have been chopped down. Again, this video does not need to be 41 minutes. And I'm sure this video that I'm recording doesn't have to be as long as it's going to end up being, but I'm only doing this because this guy.
I've ever played, because you don't know where you're supposed to be fucking going. You end up walking in circles. You end up getting so many random encounters that the fucking thing takes hours to beat. And unless you know exactly where to go with what key card to open, what fucking door, on what elevator, you can be stuck in Shinra Corporation for like hours on end, and it's torture. Once you get past Shinra Corporation, the game actually picks up, and there's a couple really good parts of Final Fantasy VII. But I remember I was doing this playthrough, and I had already done 2 to 3 sessions of gameplay.
What hard work.
At the time, we're talking hours, because back then I used to record for a long time. So we're talking, I probably had like 10, 15 hours of gameplay of Final Fantasy.
Whoa. 10, 15 hours, guys. He had that. Whoa.
And it just never came together. I never came together that I made the series back then.
Take a sip.
And I even have the infamous bathhouse scene, the infamous cross-dressing scene, all the infamous, ridiculous, silly, Japanese culture hilarity that really doesn't translate well into American culture. All those jokes, I'm all filmed and ready to go. I never did anything with it. And that is disappointing. I know it's disappointing because, think of the potential back then if I had made a series like that on YouTube when I was blowing up on YouTube. If I had made a series where it was gameplay mixed in with skits and comedy, it might have taken off. But for whatever reason, I remember there were other releases coming out, and I wanted to play those, and people were dying to see me play those. And the interest for Project 7 waned and finally died out. And then in 2012, I rebooted it, and it was exciting.
Let's see, we're 22 minutes in. We're halfway there.
So now fast forward to 2015, and me saying, "Wow, maybe this now I do the red capture." Right?
Finally, we're done shitting on Final Fantasy VII. We're finished with it.
Do high quality playthrough of Final Fantasy VII, which I never did before, and I'm thinking here in the summer it's going to be pretty dead. So really, here's what I was estimating was going to happen this year. Around late June, I was thinking, typically after E3, there's nothing going on in games. So late June, what I will do is I'll have it so my second streams will be me working on Project 7. I'll be filming Final Fantasy 7, sessions, like 2-hour sessions of offline gameplay, and hopefully, say late June into mid-July, late July, maybe I'll have gotten through the game and beaten the game. And then I could take August to sit down and write skits, film skits, do these skits, so that...
do the skit. I guess 64 fans would know what that means, but yeah, these aren't really good excuses, Phil. I'm sorry. I really don't feel why yet, because the summer really has been kind of dead. Only 2 major games that I was looking forward to came out. Devil May Cry 4, which was a special edition re-release, and I wasn't really hyped for that. I was just like, oh man, it's gonna be, whatever. Then Skullgirls like an encore. I love Skullgirls, so yeah, okay. What was the major games that came out that took your time, Phil?
I can implement this gameplay footage that I recorded in June and July and put it into the series, and maybe I can have a couple episodes done for the fall, release it over the fall to get hype for it, and then maybe next year when things die down again in gaming, which undoubtedly they do early in the year, then I could work on it again. As you guys know, that didn't work out at all. What ended up happening this year was this ended up being not only an incredibly busy summer for me because of new releases and other stuff going on, but what it seems to be is that there really won't be downtime anymore. There's now so much going on between re-releases and episodic releases and DLC.
Re-releases? Dude, if I had a gaming channel and I had and also working on a different series, whatever, and it was between working on that series or doing recording a re-release game, I wouldn't do the re-release because I'm sure my audience has seen these games. The only reason why I upload Skullgirls like an encore videos is because I've never seen that game finally is alive online now, and I upload it directly because it's from the PlayStation 4 and all that. That's why I do that. But but let's say that I was like, oh, I'm gonna work on a video series, and even if I was doing a video series, like I was working on a series and Skullgirls like an encore comes out, I wouldn't have uploaded any videos. I would have worked on that. Time management, son. Does he even do time management?
Releases and indie games.
Indie games.
I have really widened my reach with the content that I make for you. It's not just I play the new overhyped games, and if there's new overhyped games, I don't do anything. No. Now I've really reached out, especially with the Patreon stuff. I do
He reached out because he was desperate for things to play. There were like a few occasions, I mean maybe 2 times I guess, whatever, a few occasions where he asked what games he wanted to, what people wanted him to play. I mean, yeah, there's the Patreon goals that people voted for him to play Crash Bandicoot 2 and Crash Bandicoot 1, and there was one that had him play Fallout New Vegas. But then there are times like Every Day Goes to Rapture. That wasn't a Patreon request. Same with Just Cause 2. I mean, Just Cause 2 was a donated game, so he had to do that one. Even though he was debating on doing that one to begin with. That's a whole other thing. But with this, like, he's saying that, well, I brought in my reach. I did this. I did that. You asked for games. You asked for stuff to do.
And I do marathons and stuff like that. My content's different. It's very different than how things used to be in 2010 and even in 2012. I'm a very different person and a different content creator now than I used to be. And even compared to last summer. Last summer, I remember I moved, and there was downtime during the move time because there was nothing really coming out. This year didn't happen. We had Batman Arkham Knight that came out in late June because it was delayed. That carried into the full first half of July, right? Then we had a DLC for it. Then we had little mini releases like Godzilla. And even through this month of August, which so far for the first half of August there's been no major releases, there's still things that people want me to check out, like the Rare Replay Collection, like Everybody's Gone to the Rapture.
The Rare Replay Collection, he was hyping that up. I don't think anyone told him, I want to see the Rare Replay Collection. He chose to do it. And now he's hiding Banjo-Kazooie, the Banjo games, behind a paywall because he knows people want to see that. That's why when he played it, I had a feeling he was going to do this. He only did the tutorial, and then he stopped. He stopped playing the game. And that's probably because he was going to come back to it as a Patreon goal.
And even
sorry, that was a small little tangent right there.
On having time to work on Project 7, it just haven't worked out. So now let's get to the skinny of things. And again, people get thumbs down the video. Go ahead, thumbs it down. I hope this video has 4,000 thumbs down at this point.
Oh, it will get 4,000 thumbs down.
Because the bottom line is I'm an honest person. And
an honest person. The guy who said, my crash streams are going to be 7-hour streams. But they ended up being less than 7 hours. Some of them were actually less than 6 hours. Especially the Crash 2 stream. That I heard was actually even smaller than way less than 6 hours. And he didn't even finish the game. He got money to pay for 7 hours and he didn't do it. And then he tried to make excuses about it. And then he said that people who are saying that I didn't play for 7 hours lied. People timed it. Even people of his fans timed it. Some of his fans even said he didn't do 7 hours. So where's his facts coming from? I mean, people are getting it from his stream. And then he says that, well, no one wants to see me finish Crash 2. So many people wanted him to finish Crash 2. He got so many replies about it. Then he tried to say, well, he wants me to beat Crash 2. This is a whole other argument. This is a whole other video, but it's ridiculous. Yeah, he's an honest guy. Okay, dude.
I am stressed out right now to my
stressed.
I couldn't even sleep because I'm thinking I got to work on Project 7. I promised the viewers I'd work on Project 7, and we even have Patreon goals based off of Project 7, and I still don't have anything to fucking show for it yet.
This is kind of what I talked about in another video, and this is actually a big issue with this video, and this kind of ticked me off. I'm sorry, this video did tick me off. Out of all the things that DSP did, I never really got angry at him. I just thought that what he said is kind of funny, and I wanted to kind of express his silliness about it. This fucking video pissed me off, dude. I'm sorry, but like I watched this video and it got really under my skin. It's not that, oh, I'm miserable about this, but like it's just these excuses are not even good excuses. He had nothing to show for Project 7, but he continued to take people's money for it. He asked people's money for this thing. If I wanted to work on a new comic series, I said, hey, I'm working on this new comic book series, but I really have nothing to show for it. I have no really idea on what I want to do with it, but I'm going to need you to give me money. And you just have to trust me that I know what I'm going to do with it. Just give me your money and I'll work it out. Don't worry, just give me your money and trust me. You wouldn't give me your money. This is why people usually make fun of Kickstarters, or why a lot of Kickstarters don't get funded, because the people don't show them anything. They show them nothing, and then they expect to get money for it. Look at the Kickstarters for Bloodstained. They showed gameplay. They showed so much work on it. It's like, look at what we got, but we need more. We need money. So here's the goal, and they give you incentives. But then they just they show you what they worked on. It's like, this is what we got right now, but we need more time and more budget to kind of add on to it. He showed absolutely nothing, and he got money for it.
Yeah, there's still a large group of people who are saying, Phil, you should be playing this DLC, and why didn't you go back to Splatoon, and why didn't you do this? You should, I wish I could clone myself. I wish.
This is coming from the guy who said to people who were complaining about his Crash stream that that they didn't have any right to complain if they didn't pay on Patreon. If you didn't if you didn't donate to my Patreon, you have no right to complain. So now he just kind of admitted that all these people who didn't donate to his Patreon said, do this, do this, do this, do this, and he listened to them, but didn't listen to the people who paid him money to do Project 7. Wow.
I could clone myself and I could have one person who does creative things with video and another person who does gameplay footage, but that's not the case right now, alright?
It's called time management. You have to manage your time. If you want to work on Project 7, you have to make the time. You gotta sacrifice something. You can't have it both ways. You can't play video games and do Project 7. You just don't do that. I mean, unless you want to stay up late in the night, then you can do it. But if you don't want to stay up past midnight and you want to do both, it's not gonna happen. Something has to be taken off, or something has to be sacrificed for you to do that, for you to do something. It's basic.
And quite honestly, 2 days now in a row, I wanted to work on Project 7. And
2 days.
I'm working on Project 7, and it hasn't worked out. And the reason it hasn't worked out is because of various reasons. Last week,
various reasons.
Patreon stuff happened. I had to do stuff for patrons, and I had to do the best and worst of June and July montage, which people were asking me for 2 months. Where is it? You didn't do one for June.
But again, like he had all the time in the world to do the one for June. But even then, he could have. Doing a montage isn't like insanely hard. An experienced YouTuber that does this for a living should be able to do a montage. There's really no excuse for this.
And it ended up taking up most of the day for me to work on this project. Today, right? I had every intention. I'm going to work on Patreon stuff and then Project 7. What happened? The Street Fighter 5 beta, which completely failed back in July.
He stopped everything for a beta. Just so you know, when the beta ended up being live, I wasn't home. I was actually out and about doing my own thing, and I didn't know it was up. And then I came home and I heard that. Then when I went on, it was closed. I didn't care because here's the thing: it's a beta. I'm gonna get Street Fighter 5 anyway, so I know I'm gonna eventually play the game. And Capcom already said that they're gonna do 3 other cycles of the beta before the game released. And they're going to extend it as well, so I heard. But it's a beta, dude. If I'm working on, like, let's say I'm working on Project 7. Let's say I'm working on a webcomic or something, and I'm like, I'm working on it. Then someone says, hey, the beta for Street Fighter 5 is open. But it's like, but I promised people I got paid money to do this comic, and I need to get this done. But dude, the beta. I'm going to say, well, fuck it. Fuck the beta. I'm just going to work on this because I got paid to do this.
Launches. Out of nowhere, they turn it on today for 2 hours. So I was like, well, it's now or never because coming up soon, it's the hardcore gaming season. I'll have no chance to play this, right? There's no chance for me to go back. I have to play the beta now if I'm going to play it. So I jump in and I played it for 2
no
hours.
Chance.
I got good footage of it. And people...
No chance. The only chance you'll get a chance to play it is when the game comes out. I mean, yeah, he wants the beta coverage, but who cares? Who cares about the beta? I mean, I'm interested in the beta, but I don't really care if I play it or not. If I end up not playing the beta by the time the game is released, I won't lose a night's of sleep over it. I wouldn't lose sleep over it. I would just kind of say, well, I didn't need to play the beta. Oh, well, I got the game anyway that I was going to buy anyway. Okay.
On the stream enjoyed it, so that was great. But you see what's happening. It's like everything's kind of conspiring and saying, Phil, just... There's no time for Project 7. Don't do Project 7.
Don't do it.
And right now, I've got no footage recorded whatsoever of Final Fantasy.
No footage.
In the series. And I really, realistically, with the timing right now, of everything going on and the things I'm trying to finish and the things that people want me to...
Another thing I will say that he kind of shot himself in the foot. He expected to get stuff done within a month or in 2 days. He thought that this would be like a cakewalk, and it found out he wasn't. So he kind of did this. Any person who does a TV show or makes any form of media will tell you it will take more than 2 days. I kind of felt almost in the same trap as Phil over here. For once, I can actually relate to him on this, but I realized that it was stupid of me to do this. I was going to do a comic book series that I was going to release once a month, and I was going to work on it within each month. But then I realized that takes a lot of time and effort, so instead of doing it every month, it surely just became whenever I finish it. Whenever I finish each issue, I upload it. So really what I'm hoping to do now, from now on, with my comic series, I'm going to work on a whole bunch of them, then release them. So I'm gonna work on stuff. I mean, I might upload videos of me doing it. I mean, I'm sure somewhere on my channel I have a stream of me doing pages in Liquid Rock. So I do that. I posted videos of me working on it. So there's proof of me working on it, and I still work on it. I mean, I have storyboards to show for. I have stuff on my computer to show for. I'm on the 6th page of 10. So it takes time, dude. You can't finish. Like I can't. Oh,
Do. I'm like, I don't think I could put anything together. I don't. And here's the thing.
you shouldn't expect to get something done within a month or days or whatever. You should just try to work at it piece by piece. Don't focus on the end goal when you don't even have anything down. You can't work on the finished drawing without an outline. He had nothing done. He didn't even have an outline done. All he had was a potential Final Fantasy VII footage. Okay, but like, oh, dude, this is ridiculous. It's like me working on a painting and then look at the empty canvas and like, I can't work on it. There's really nothing here. I don't know what to do. I quit. I give up. It's like, of course you don't know what to do because there's nothing on the canvas. It's not. You have to put the work into it. You can't expect the painting to paint itself. You can't expect Project 7 to rate itself. You had to work on the outline first. You can't just.
If I do relaunch Project 7, I want it to be good.
Oh, here we
By
go.
that is, do I want it to be amazing, high quality level stuff like the reboot of Project 7 was with respect to that? No. But I want it to be a quality product. If I'm going to be taking time out.
Don't worry about the quality until you have something done. Again, like, I work on my comics. I make zero money off them, and I don't mind. I do it because it's a learning experience for me. I get to try new brushes on my application. I get to, try to play around with panels. I get to, learn stuff. So I know from the beginning, since I have zero expertise in comics, that my comics may not be the best thing ever. But I try to make it, look as good as it can, sure. But I at least know what I'm gonna get out of it. He's just forfeiting it just because he's like, well, I know what I'm going to make is not going to look as good. I give up. Like, I could have done the same. I was like, well, I have no experience in comics. I've never done a comic book series before. I've never done digital paintings before. I never did the digital thing. I think I'm just going to give up on this because I don't want to put out something that could suck. Don't be worried about what it could be. Those are could be's. Those are maybes. Don't listen to maybes. Work on something. Sure, it could be shit, but here's the other thing. You could have the best quality camera. You gotta take the time of your life to work on something. When you record it, it could still be a well-polished turd. It could still suck, and you could spend as many years as you want in it. Look at Duke Nukem Forever. Everyone thought it was going to be great because they took the time, they had all these years in development, and it didn't amount to much. People were disappointed with it. So really, you could take as much time as you want, but you also have to, put something out there. The whole creative thing is a risk. You have to take a risk. If you're afraid of taking risks, you're never going to succeed in it. You're never going to work for it. You're never going to move forward. You need to take that first step. If the first episode you're going to make, Phil, sucks, then take that and learn from it. See, like, well, I guess it sucks because of this and this and this, so let's try to fix, this and make it tighter and make it better. Don't say, well, the first episode sucks, so I think I'm gonna stop there. No, you at that point you're ending at a shitty note. This guy needs to watch Whiplash. I'm telling you, Whiplash is a great movie. It's motivational. Same with Gurren Lagann.
Work and away from gameplay that you want to see me do, right? I want it to be worth everyone's while. I don't want to whip something together for the sake of, I promised this and I'm obligated to do this, or, people, I said I would do it, so I'm just going to do it. I'm going to whip it together and do it quick, and then it sucks. The thing that...
But you have to. You put yourself in that situation. If you didn't want to be in that situation, you shouldn't have made it a Patreon goal. He did it to himself. Like, that's why I never promise... that's why I don't ask for money when I'm working on my comic book series, because, I might do it in the future, maybe, but I wouldn't commit to it unless I have something. If I have nothing, I would never dream of asking for money. If I have an idea for a comic book idea, I would not ask for money to do it. I would do it. Then if it's like, if I have something really good that I was like, oh, I really believe in this thing that I'm looking at right now in this physical thing. Look at these storyboards I made. Then maybe I consider asking for money. But if I have nothing, if I have absolutely nothing, if this is all I have for a new comic book series, this is blank piece of paper, I would not ask for money. I would work on it first, then worry about the money. He has it backwards. Is the point? Is that he's concerned about how it would.
Really sucks in life is when you have responsibilities like that. Like I know, for example, you're writers, right? And they end up having these contracts with a publishing house, and because they're a popular writer, oh, we've got a 5-book deal with the publishing house. But the writer really only has 2 books that he wants to write. And he tells the publishing house that, and they're like, well, too bad. We'll publish the 2 books you want, but we also need 3 more from you. So then that writer ends up writing 2 great books and 3 shit books. Because...
Or, that's not the entire case. I'm sure there's plenty of books that kind of get in that situation where they have 2 books that they want to write, but then they get written to in his example, and they might continue pumping out amazing books after that. I mean, sure, that might happen to some authors, but not all of them. Some of them could just go on to make better books, regardless in the series.
He doesn't have the time to write the other 3 books. He wants to focus only on the 2, and he's contractually...
He doesn't have time. He doesn't have time to work on the other 3 books. I'm sure the publishing house would give him at least some time to write them. I mean, if they give him time to write on those 2 books, then they would give him the same amount of time to do the other 3 books. I don't know. I mean, it's not like the guy they're gonna say, "Oh, you want this book for this year, then the next book the next year, then that book the year after that, the year after that." They don't release yearly. They release it when they're done. I mean, they do give them a deadline, but they give them a deadline that is reasonable. Sometimes they might extend it if there's a reason to extend it, but publishers don't just give them a due date and then that doesn't work.
Reason that he did it.
I don't know. I'm not an author, so I'm sorry if any of you got stuff published and you know more than me about this. Feel free to just tell me I'm wrong and just kind of give me the updated version of it. But I just don't think what Phil said is accurate as much. I mean, I'm sure it might apply to some authors, but I wouldn't say it applies to every single author that is in that situation. But
that person.
This is me.
That person who becomes obligated to do something and therefore puts out shit work.
But you put yourself in that situation.
Or I'm going to do a project where it's going to take a lot of extra work and editing and things. I want it to be good. I don't want to just go through the motions for the sake of doing it. And don't get me wrong.
But you got people's money.
Project 7.
He took people's money for it, and now he's worried about this? He should have thought about that before he even made it a Patreon goal. It's just like, well, if it makes it a Patreon goal, I might be in the situation where I might have to throw something together because I got paid for it. But he didn't think that. He didn't think about that. He just threw the goal up there on his Patreon and didn't think about it until his goal got reached. Because he probably thought maybe there's a chance that it wouldn't be reached, but it did. Because guess what, Phil? Your fans wanted to see it.
I just don't think that I could do Project 7 right now with a time frame that I have to work on it and put out anything quality for you.
Wow.
For numerous reasons. Number 1, I don't have a camera. Right now, the camera I'm using is my webcam, and it's great. This webcam is great for in here. But I can't move this webcam around my house to film things, and this webcam has no zoom whatsoever.
Oh
my
no,
camera
zoom.
here, my Sony camera, I'll bring it over. This is my Sony camera. This is the camera that I used for the old Project 7. This is the camera that I used for the longest time to film all of my vlogs and stuff. This camera's on its last legs. This camera won't even film anything longer than around 10 minutes. At 10 minutes, the camera just decides, oh well, and it stops recording. It's not a battery issue. It's just the camera's old as fuck. Do you know how many years I used this camera? How
Bugged age mechanics, dude.
many hours a day I was using it? This camera was not built for that much use. And it's dying. So I don't have a camera. I have this camera. This is a Panasonic camcorder. It's a Handycam camcorder. It's really not very good. It's blurry. The focus is terrible. The color adjustment is terrible. It says it does 1080p, but every video I've ever filmed on it in 1080p looks blurry as hell. So it's not a good camera. This is a...
Okay. Fun fact, this is a little behind the scenes on my videos. Right now I'm using my built-in eyesight in my MacBook. Great camera. Super. I also have a flip camera that does standard definition, so I think the most it can do is 480p. I'm recording a video right now. I'm recording videos with that camera. I did a few of these DSP videos with that camera. I'm doing a series with that camera that you're gonna see, in the future at some point. But it's a flip camera. I don't have a nice camera. I would love to have a nice camera to do these videos. I would love to do the art video I'm using that flip camera for. I wish I had a nice camera because when I do like a nice soft outline, it doesn't really pick up on it. But I use it because I know for the bottom line, when I look at the footage, it picks up on stuff that I would like for it to pick up. Like it doesn't. It's not like when you see it, it's completely unwatchable. You can see what I'm doing. The thing is that you the tools you have around you at your disposal, you need to manipulate those. You need to exploit that. I don't have a rich I mean, that's like me saying, well, I'm not going to work on my comic book series or any more art projects because I don't have a Cintiq. A Wacom Cintiq, which is a $1,000 tablet because it has a display built in, and I can do this without having the tablet on the table and looking at the screen in front of me and drawing like this because that is awkward to draw with. But I'm not gonna do that because that is not how you do art. I need the Cintiq. If I don't have the Cintiq, no art for me. Like, I would never do that. I have a pencil, I have paper, I have a normal tablet where I put it on the table, I draw it, and I look at the screen to do it. I deal with that because that's what I have, and I use it because it gets the job done. That handicam he has in his hand right now can get the job done. I would have used that camera, dude. Give it to me. Give me that camera. I'll use it. If it's such a bad camera, I'll take it off your hands.
Good camera for me to very quickly do a vlog moving around the house or on a vacation. This is not a camera that I would want to use for an edited series.
Same with the flip camera. The flip camera isn't meant to do like these long movie-esque kind of things, but I even recorded like skits with that camera, and I liked it. I liked using it because it might not have been the best quality, but from what I got, I love using it because that's all I had at the time. Maybe at some point I'll get a better camera, but right now that's the camera I'm going to be using for now until I can afford a better camera. But that's what I'm using, and I don't mind it. Just because, oh, I need a better camera if I want to do a skit, but I have this flip camera that's 480p. Never mind. No, I would still film it with 480p. Sure, it's not 1080p, but like he even records this in 1080p with 60 frames. He's sitting on a couch and he records with that. That's ridiculous.
The videos will look like shit, and I have been trying to raise money.
And I said this in a comment on this video. I did make a comment on this video. People care mostly with what the project is. So if you put effort and heart and passion into it, it's going to reflect on the project. Look at Mega 64 version 1. It's kind of crappy, but you can see the charm in that. You can see that these guys really wanted to do this. They put their time, their effort into it. Yeah, they didn't have the equipment that they have now, but the equipment they had there was great, and it worked, and it was not the best quality videos that they put out, but it was entertaining and it had a charm. If you have a charm and a heart and a passion with a video, it's gonna stick.
Year to buy a better camera, and it just hasn't turned out. In fact, a couple months.
Let's see how far we're into this. 29 minutes, guys. And we're almost there. 10 more minutes or so.
I've got a lot of debt from moving across the country.
Debt.
I don't have money to throw. I don't have $1,000 that I could take to go buy a camera.
The other thing is that he makes money. He sells his figures. He has Patreon. He makes money off of Patreon. He has money off from his Project 7 goal. He could have thrown that money to get a good camera. And the other thing is that he wants to buy like the top of the line $1,000 over like $2,000 camera. You don't need to buy that. I'm not a camera expert, but I'm sure you can get a good camera for less than $1,000. I mean, I've seen videos of guys who use cheap cameras. Do some research for your cameras, dude. Look for one that is price efficient and that does what you want. This guy doesn't do any research. He just looks at the prices. Well, the most expensive is the best one. That's not the case of everything. I mean, I could buy an expensive piece of equipment and it could turn out like shit. Just saying.
I'm running batteries.
He paid. Last thing, he paid $3,000 for a PC, and that PC is apparently a lemon. He paid for a $3,000 lemon.
And everything. I don't have the money. If this were 2-3 years ago when I was living in Connecticut before I moved and I had all this debt, sure, then I had all this disposable income. It's a different situation now, and I just can't. I don't have.
Where did this income come from? I don't know.
And the money to get equipment to make a good series that would be Project 7. Okay. Number 2.
I make $0. And I still work on my webcomic. And I think it's great. I enjoy doing it because it's a learning experience for me. But I also like uploading because I think it's a really cool thing. Doesn't cost me that much. Just saying. I mean, the most expensive thing that I had to buy was probably Corel Painter to do it. That's it. That's probably the only thing that. But that was like $300. Okay, I mean $300 may not be cheap, but it's not $1,000. I didn't have to pay for Photoshop, which was $1,000. I mean, I could buy it for a subscription, but that's I don't like what they did. But that's a different thing. But yeah, I mean the Corel Painter was the only thing that was expensive. It was expensive, but whatever. I got the job done. I make comics. I'm happy.
Right now, if I were to work on Project 7, with even the days, I said that I would take maybe 3 to 4 days in the month of August to work on Project 7. We all know it didn't work out last week because I was working on that montage, which I had promised first. I had to go first because I had been waiting for 2 months to make the July and June montage, and I had patron responsibilities today. Today, again, Street Fighter V out of nowhere. It was the only opportunity for you to ever play.
It's really ridiculous when you talk about patron responsibilities, and then he's trying to weasel his way out of doing Project 7, which was a patron responsibility.
Well, of course I'm going to do that today, out of nowhere.
Of course I have to do Street Fighter V beta. I have to play it. It's not like Capcom sent me, money to play it. I just have to play it. Come on, Phil, really?
I have more patron responsibilities tonight.
Patron responsibility, but not Project 7. That's not a patron responsibility. This is
perks, mailing out T-shirts. I got 1 or 2 private Q&A videos to do. I've got responsibilities to patrons. So it's not working out. If I were to do Project 7, I would, in 2 more days, so I would have a week from today, which would be the 21st of August, and maybe like the last day of August, the 31st, which is a Monday. Maybe I could cram in sometime then. But do you really think realistically in 2 days I can write, film, edit, and get something together for you? You know what I mean? With all the stress around me of people saying, Phil, play this game. Phil, you should be playing this. And it seems to me...
Of course, with that argument, it doesn't make sense because nothing takes 2 days to work on. I guarantee you, when I worked on my comic book series, I'm working on it right now, it won't take me 2 days to finish it. Because here's what I have to put into it. I have to think on what's going to happen. I got to draw the storyboards. I got to look at the storyboards. I got to see if it makes sense to me. I got to see if I like what I'm looking at. Then when I do it in the computer, I kind of revise it in there as well. I look at it. I color it. I have to mix the colors. I mean, even though it's a grayscale comic, I still have to kind of mix the tones and make it work and balance it and work on all this kind of stuff. And then put the word bubbles in, which is always a pain, but I do it anyway because I like doing this. Of course, you're not going to work on it in 2 days, but the point of your Patreon goal was that you would work on it. That's why people paid for you to do it. I mean, you should have just said, I'd work on it, and then I'd show you whatever I have. Sure, you may not have footage to show, but you could show a script. You can read the script. You could say, this is what I have right now, and people would be fine with that. But you had nothing. And again, you took money when you had nothing.
And I'll be honest with everyone. I'm going to be
This
honest.
really...
This is me, and I'm the only real person that can give you this information because I'm the only person who is the focal point of all the feedback that I get.
He's the only one. I guess...
It seems to me that right now, the consensus is, even though people would like to see Project 7 come back, they want to see it as a quality product. They don't want to see a rushed piece of crap.
They just want to see it.
It's also...
I never heard people say, Phil, I want to see Project 7 as a quality product. They just said, I want to see Project 7. For them, Project 7 could be anything. At this point. Really, at this point, Project 7 could have been anything. And they probably would have been happy with it because it's something. Something's always better than nothing. I'm sorry, but that's the truth.
End of the summer, with the limited time I have left before the new releases start coming out, people would rather see me focus on Fallout New Vegas, finishing Metroid Prime, doing an episodic release like Tales from the Borderlands.
But again, he's taking suggestions from people who didn't pay on his Patreon. The only one that he listed that that was a Patreon goal was Fallout New Vegas, so that's the only one that gets a free pass. Metroid Prime I don't think was a Patreon goal, and these other games aren't Patreon goals. Like, come on, dude. Like, you shit on people for criticizing your Patreon content, saying that they don't have the right to speak because they didn't pay for it. But now you're ignoring the people who paid for Project 7 and listening to people who didn't pay for Project 7 to sway what you do.
A little bit more of Just Cause 2, but in addition to that, doing what I promised you I was going to do back in May and returning to Splatoon at least for one major stream.
Oh, that's one promise he stuck to.
The weapons, and I could give you a kind of follow-up review of what I think about the game 3 months later now that all that free content that they promised had been released. There are DLC releases that are coming out.
Like, he's Splatoon, by the way.
Release, and a lot of people would like to see, is this DLC release even worth playing this month, or is it a piece of crap, right? There's stuff that people want to see me do that I'm not doing. And people are disappointed. Man, I can't believe Phil didn't do that because, he's busy with other stuff. And I'm disappointed that people want to see me do all this stuff now. It seems to flip. Earlier this year, I swear, this is what it seemed to me. Earlier this year in January, it seemed like there was a movement.
We're almost done, guys. We're almost done. 33 minutes out of 41 minutes.
I want to see you branch out and do better quality reviews with
this is going to be a long video, I know it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if this is too long. I'm sorry.
And now we're in August, and if you actually look, whenever I do a montage, the views are
I didn't think it would be this long, but it's Phil.
Earlier this year, the montages I was doing were getting 30,000 views, and everyone was hyped to see them. Now it's kind of like, I do one, it's like, well, Phil did the montage, but when's that playthrough coming out? And that's what it seems to me like. Now the focus has shifted, that people prefer to see me.
Because maybe they didn't like the montage you put up. Maybe put better montages up.
So I kind of got to go with what people want to see me do, right? I'm not going to...
Yeah, so you guys who paid me to do Project 7, too bad. I gotta go with what people wanted me to do that didn't...
I would do it when all these circumstances have kind of happened, and almost, like I said, it's almost like the planets aligned and are telling me, don't do Project 7 now. And so, what I want to tell you in this video, now that I'm sure everyone has thumbed it down, right? It's like 4 million thumbs down. 4 million thumbs down. A few things.
How many times have you said that? Come on.
This does not mean that I'm never doing Project 7. It just means that as of right now, I'm officially announcing I'm not doing it right now. It doesn't make sense, all right?
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for me to work on Project 7, a thing that people pay me to do. It doesn't make sense.
In the future, if I do have a turnaround and I'm not in this much debt and I can get a better camera and I can work on these things a lot better.
Oh, you're going to be in debt, dude.
But I would rather put out something that's nice.
I honestly would be... people have to drop his Patreon support after this. I'm sorry, I don't support this guy on Patreon, but if I were to donate to his Project 7 goal and I saw this video, I would either demand a refund or I would just not support him anymore because this is ridiculous. The man who
produced and is a good quality thing rather than
the king of hypocrites is what he should call himself.
That's number one. So Project
7 rush turd. Oh, well, maybe.
Never gonna happen. It just means not right now. Number two, what that means is that the days in August that I said I was.
But he could have done at least something to work on it. He could have done something with it, but he did nothing. He didn't have to finish. He didn't have to record anything. Maybe he could have just done an outline and then say, "Well, I got my outline now, so." I might not do it, I may not have something, to show, I may not have a video of it or a recording of it, but I have an outline of it, so I'll work off of that. But he has nothing. I don't trust, this is the thing, I don't trust him. He could tell me next year, I'm definitely going to do it, I would not believe him.
Taking away from streaming are now rescinded as of today.
Because you gotta play those games.
So that was rescinded. Next Friday, the 21st, I'm going to be working. I'm going to be doing 1 to 2 games.
Playing games is work.
And it's going to probably be the continuation of what I'm doing, or maybe it might be a good opportunity to say that'll be the day that I return to Splatoon. And I do a big stream of Splatoon, and I do my follow-up on Splatoon. Okay? So there will be no more days of August where I'm not streaming. I'm going to be streaming every day daily, whether it's continuing playthroughs or new things that I wasn't going to do. I can now do them, stuff like that. I'm doing that. Okay? So I am going to juggle the schedule around, and I'll have more information about that for you shortly. Number 3, Patreon, because it was kind of tied
Oh
to
boy.
Project 7, obviously now is going to change. And I want you to understand that I am very deeply sorry that I was not.
This is what I'm talking about. He doesn't sound sorry. And he might be genuinely sorry. I'm not going to say he's not genuinely sorry, but he doesn't sound sorry to me. I'm sorry, I mean, he doesn't have to cry on screen for me to believe it, but he doesn't sound bummed. And that's the other thing I was talking about before. Whenever he would talk about Project 7, he never sounded excited about it. He just sounded like, I'm doing Project 7. Like, as if it was not a big deal. He's like, Project 7, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do the montage. He sounds really excited when he's talking about video games more than he's about his own freaking series. That's like me saying, oh man, it's like, when I do an issue of Liquid Rock, my Tumblr comic, and I upload it, I get really excited for it. I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be really cool. I can't wait to upload this. I can't wait to see, any reactions of this, whatever. I can't wait. Be it negative or positive. Then, instead of doing that, let's say, and I just decided, like, Skullgirls. I'm playing Skullgirls, guys. Skullgirls is gonna be really good. It's gonna be this fight. I love this fight. Like, the art style, this. And then when I talk about my comics, like, yeah, and then I'm gonna upload Liquid Rock, my comic. It's gonna be good. I mean, he just sounded as if it was a chore to him. And now it's like, he just sounds so like, I'm sorry. Look, I have games to play. I have things to do. Okay, like that's what it sounds like. It sounds like he's just trying to be overly defensive. If he was truly sorry, he would have just been like, look, I really wanted to work on Project 7. I'm sorry, like, things fell through. I'm gonna try to make it up to you. I'm gonna try to see if I can kind of refund the money. Even if I can't, then I'll just work on Project 7 day by day, whenever I get the free chance. I may not get anything recorded, but I'm gonna try to get something together. And maybe I'll get something done, but I'm gonna get it done. I'm gonna work on it. I might not have any. I don't know. He doesn't sound really that genuine to me.
Able to put together a
I don't know.
product for you. I know that it was a goal for the month of August for me to take all this time off to work.
In August, I thought it was the goal was summer, but whatever.
Who pledged a certain amount of money? It was one of your perk levels that you possibly could be a part of Project 7 or another project. Right now, I'm going to be honest with everyone. At this point, I'm taking the Project 7 thing off the table. So if you did pledge to those.
But those people are probably pledged to play Project 7. I mean, I said this in my comment on this video. That is kind of a pass, because he did at least say that if Project 7 doesn't happen, it's going to be on this video. That's fine, because he at least said that. But that was only for that goal. He didn't say it for the Project 7 $1,000 goal that he posted up. He didn't even say that as if it was a possibility. He made it sound as if it was going to happen. But this was like, oh, well, maybe, who knows. And that's fine that you're utilizing these people who are doing it for that level, but what about the people who paid $1,000 for that?
Perk levels on
Come
Patreon,
on.
you still can be a part of a project. I've already announced this. I'm doing both a Thanksgiving and a Christmas special this year, and they're going to be different. I think Thanksgiving is going to be more gameplay oriented. Christmas is going to be more of like a holiday special like I used to do, where there may be a skit or something involved in it, and I'm going to try to get people involved in helping me with that. So you have opportunity to be a part of either of those if you did pledge to that highest perk level on a Patreon. So don't think that I'm going to renege on my commitment or anything. No. I said from the get-go.
On that particular commitment. He's definitely going to stake out the other commitment.
It's not going to be Project 7 because it's not happening now. The earliest I would even consider working on Project 7 at this point would possibly be next year. Okay?
Fun fact, he kept delaying Project 7 every year, so I'm sure he's going to say the same thing next year. Oh, well, it's not going to work out. Actually, going to delay it to the summer. Then when it's summertime, by the end of the summer, he's going to say, oh, it's going to be delayed till next year. Then it's going to repeat. It's worse than the Sonic cycle. He found a way to top the Sonic cycle, where people get hyped for a Sonic game, the Sonic game comes out, they get angry and disappointed, then they get excited for the next Sonic game. It's worse than that. Phil found a way to make a worse cycle than that.
Now, I'm going to go one step further. I could easily say that's it and end the video, but no, I feel bad. I genuinely feel
He feels bad.
That Project 7 isn't happening.
Yeah, look at him. He feels so bad. Look how he looks like.
I had a goal on my July Patreon that was $1,250, right?
$1,250.
Time off this month to
Okay.
work on Project 7, which never happened. I never took the time off, right? but there was $250, so the goal below that was $1,000. So there was $250 there that was supposed to be to make up for the days that I wasn't going to work. Well, now I'm working on those days. So I'm not just going to pocket that money like these other people who use Patreon or Kickstarter or whatever, and then they never actually come through with their promises. No. That money is going...
Well, the thing with Kickstarter is that people who get the money and they don't follow through their promises, you can actually report them to Kickstarter and you can get a refund from them. Patreon, from what I understand, they don't give you a refund, which is ridiculous. They should at least have a system for that. They could keep a record on how each Patreon, like how much they donate. I don't know why they don't have a refund option, because this is why they need a refund option.
...to now be reduced from my future Patreon. So this month, the month of August, right, I have goals right now on Patreon, and right now, as of the moment you're watching this video, I want to let you know I have reduced those goal levels by $250. So you already gave me the money last month. I didn't come through with Project 7 as promised.
Whoa, I did not want captions. Wow, Phil. So what he just admitted to was that he took your money, and then he took your money and spent it on stuff you didn't pay for. That's like me going up to you. This is bad example time, but I go up to you and I say, I'm gonna get you a hamburger. Just give me $5 and I'll get you a hamburger. You give me the $5. Then I come back and I give you a bag of chips. And you're like, dude, I gave you money for a hamburger. Look, here's the thing, man. I was gonna get you the hamburger, but I didn't want to wait in line. I mean, the line was too long, and I just didn't want to wait. I mean, there was like one person in front of me. I just didn't want to wait in that line for you to get a hamburger. So I just decided to get you a big bag of chips. Is that guy supposed to be like, oh, great? No, he's going to be like, dude, you should just give him my money back. But since, in this case, since Patreon doesn't have a way to refund people, he still did that. He should have just gave you the hamburger you paid for. You paid for Project 7, not for whatever perks that your money is now going to. That is ridiculous. Thank you, you worthless humans, for the views, for the money. Wow, Phil, that is low. That is low. God damn it. No.
So that goal level,
no.
that money is being applied to August now. So
your money is going from something else now.
It's $1,000. If I can raise $1,000 on Patreon, I'm going to be doing an indie marathon, okay? So that's the way for me to come through and not... I could easily just say I'm a dick and pocket the money like some of these people fucking do, but I can't. I couldn't live with...
But he kind of is pocketing the money, because he's putting the money into other goals. Okay, he's putting those monies in those goals. Guess where the money goes from those goals? His pocket. Whichever reason, this is where OBS is. So his pocket. That money from Patreon goes to his pocket. So technically, he is pocketing the money. He's just putting a nice face over it. And I just realized that too. Like in the first recording of this, I didn't mention that. But now I'm thinking about it. Because Patreon goes to him. Right? He got the money from the Project 7 goal. That cleared, the check's cleared, you got that money. Now we're saying that money is going to other goals. But where does the money in those goals go to?
Myself. I understand that I want this to be a working relationship.
Think about it.
Where you guys watch my content for free and enjoy it. I get to have a living doing this. You pledge to my Patreon, you get cool perks. I have goal levels and cool events and things that I give back to you, but I also get that money for funding and constant improvement and things, right? So I am not going to just pocket that money. It goes towards now August.
Yeah, he's not pocketing it, guys. He's just moving it to another Patreon goal.
Taken away from July and placed towards the August levels, okay? So understand, I apologize. If you are very disappointed, you were dying to see Project 7 right away, I'm disappointed too. You know what? I'm going to thumbs down this video on you.
And what's his thing with likes and dislikes now? Like he focuses so much on it, but that's not the point. But disliking it is whatever. But just because you dislike your own video doesn't mean that you're absolved from this or that you're okay from this. No. You fucked up, and now you're trying to say that it's okay that you fucked up. You fucked up, dude.
Down my own fucking video.
I don't care you still...
The shit didn't turn out the way that I'd hoped. But that's life, and, we move forward positively. So, I want to say...
This fucking guy, dude.
If you weren't interested in Project 7, this is certainly good news for you, because it means there's going to be at least 2 full more days of content in the month of August, including Splatoon.
Look, if you like this guy, if you like DSP, that's fine. I'm not saying that you're dumb or anything like that. It's just, at least call him out on this shit, dude. I'm sorry, I mean, I don't hate this guy, I don't wish him harm or anything, not at all. But I just want him to improve this. From this. He's not.
Now, unfortunately, even though I wanted it to be, is not that time, and I'm making.
And this pisses me off too, dude. Like, I watch a lot of his videos. Not a lot of his videos, but I've seen most of his videos. I never really got pissed off at him. I just thought what he said was kind of funny, but it's just what he says, and what he says is just funny, and just kind of like I want to talk about it. But this is just aggravating. I've never seen people treat their patrons this way.
There will be more gameplay footage. I'm listening directly to your feedback, which is why I'm doing this. And like I said, I'm not just taking patron funds and pocketing them. Those who did have the high patron goal level hit, you can be a part of the Thanksgiving or Christmas specials, which I'll be talking about soon. And I'll be giving you information about what those specials will entail, so you can decide which one you want to be a part of. If you did pledge to my Patreon in the month of July, and that goal level was $250, that money's being applied to August. So I'm reducing those goals. So again, I'm not pocketing anything. It's all...
He's not pocketing anything, guys.
Kosher and transparent here.
Transparent.
I'm very saddened that I couldn't come through for you.
Wow.
But now that I've explained what the project is, you understand the work that it would entail.
He didn't explain shit. He just talked about this old Project 7. Then he talked about Final Fantasy 7. And then he talked about why he can't do it. So I don't know what Project 7 was. That's what I got from this video. At the end of the video, I didn't get what it was.
Do what this is going to be. I hope you understand, and I hope that hopefully in the future it works out, and eventually I can do Project 7. So.
No, it'll never work out for you, dude.
I feel better. I feel better now that I made this video and I got
it. Feels better.
To publicly reveal to you.
He feels better after he said, "I'm sorry about this and that," and if he felt genuinely sad or sorry or disappointed by this, he wouldn't have ended the video with, "I feel great now." No, I wouldn't have said that. I just would have been like, I would have just ended on a big apology and then just leave it at that. I wouldn't say, "I feel great now that I said this."
Stressful. These past 2.5 months, I've been stressed the fuck out, man. It's like, man, people want Project 7, or I keep saying I'm going to do Project 7, and it never works out. It never works out. And I really hope, I hope that it will work out in the future, but I want to put out something quality, okay? Sorry it didn't work out. I hope you appreciate the honesty. And now that
I don't appreciate this video.
And that's that. Now we can focus daily on gameplay content again, and the stuff that you've been asking me to do, we can get to rather than worry.
Now we can move forward. Honestly, I feel like this was just a scheme to get 10,000 views. That's something right there. 10,000 views. He barely gets that many views. He gets in the hundreds. He only gets like into the thousands when he's talking about like a hot topic. So let's see. This is my comment right here. I like this comment. I didn't like it myself, but 26 likes. 26 likes for that comment. 3 likes for that one. I made this one just kind of off the whim. But let's go on a little tiny field trip. It's not canceled, you dummy. Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. Okay, let's go on a little field trip. I'm not gonna read any more tweets, but this particular one got my attention. I follow Tevin C. Tevin C is a cool dude. So let's see. Here you go. This. He says that there's no way to refund your money, basically. This is ridiculous. And then, yeah, I don't know. It's actually no. This is the point. I'm gonna edit this out. But yeah, it just this whole thing was ridiculous. He kind of tried to justify taking the money Let's look at the conversation because there's one thing in the conversation that I actually liked. If I could find it. Hmm. Here you go. Fun fact: as per Patreon terms of services, if a goal is met and not fulfilled, you must follow through with it. He has to follow through with it because he reached the goal. The goal isn't a fundraising celebration. That's not what it is. That's kind of what a perk is, but a perk and a goal are two different things on Patreon. And here, there's a terms of service is if a goal is met or not fulfilled, you must follow through with it. So I really hope that there. I really want to see the fallout of this because really, if no one reports him to Patreon after this, I don't know. I mean, it's ridiculous. You shouldn't get away with this. Is what I'm saying. But again, if you like Phil, that's fine. I'm not saying you have to unlike him now or you have to unsubscribe from him or anything. I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm just saying that this is something that he shouldn't get away with, is what I'm saying. I think this is ridiculous. How he treated people who paid him money for Project 7. But I'm gonna stop there. I'm sure the length is ridiculous, so I'm sorry for this very long video. But hey, if you stuck through this video, give yourself an A star. Sadly, I cannot repay you in any way other than saying thank you for watching this long video. See you.